So we're picking up from where we left off with the mysteries of the silent brotherhood of the East, chapter 14, entitled Yahshua Passes the Second Brotherhood Test. Justice. The Logos did not care to rest. He said, "Why wait in this luxurious room? I need not rest. My Father's work upon me presses hard." So that's the contents of this chapter. Why would I go on and learn my lessons all? If there are trials, let them come. For every victory over self gives added strength. And then the guy led on. And in a chamber dark as night was Yahshua placed and left alone. And days were spent in this deep solitude. And Yahshua slept. And in the dead of the night, a secret door was opened. And in priest's attire, two men came in, each carrying in his hand a little flickering lamp. Approaching Yahshua, one spoke out and said, "Young man, our hearts are grieved because of what you suffer in these fearful dens. And when we come as friends to bring you light and show you the way to liberty, we once, like you, were in these dens, confined, and thought that through these weird, uncanny ways, we could attain a blessedness power. But in a luckful moment, we were undeceived, and making use of all our strength, we broke our chains. And then we learned that all this service is corruption in disguise. These priests are criminals just hid away. They boast of sacrificial rites they offer to their gods and burn them while alive, poor birds and beasts. Yeah, children, women, and men. And now they keep you here at a certain time. May offer you in sacrifice. We pray you, brother, break your chains. Come go with us, accept of freedom while you may." And Yahshua said, "Your little tapers show the light you bring. Pray, who are you? The words of a man are worth no more than is the man himself. These temple walls are strong and high. How gained you entrance into this place?" The men replied, "Beneath these walls are hidden ways, and we, who have been priests, spent months and years within these dens and know all of them." "Then you are traitors," Yahshua said. "A traitor is a friend who betrays another man, is never a man to trust. If one has only reached the plane of treachery, he is a lover of deceit and will betray a friend to save himself or self. Behold, you men of whatsoever you be, your words fall lightly on my ears. Could I prejudice these 100 priests, turn traitor to myself and them because of what you say when you confess your treachery? No man can judge for me. And if I judge before testimony, all is in. I might not judge aright. Nay, men by whatsoever way you come return. My soul prefers the darkness of the grave to little flickering light like these you bring. My conscience rules. What these, my brothers, have to say I will hear. And when the testimony all is in, I will decide. You cannot judge for me, nor I for you. Be gone, you men, be gone. And leave to me this charming light. For while the sun shines not within my soul, there is a light surpassing that of sun and moon. Then, with an angry threat that they would do him harm, the vile tempters left, and Yahshua was alone. Again, the white-robed priests appeared and led the way, and Yahshua stood again before the Hierophant, or the magician, or the high priest, and not a word was said, but in his hand the master placed a scroll on which the word justice was inscribed, and Yahshua was the master of the phantom forms of prejudice and of treachery. So we see Yahshua pass yet another test. We see that in this chapter again is more robbers dressed in the priest garb, but Yahshua stood firm. Any thoughts on this chapter? Anything stood out to anybody in this chapter? Anybody learn anything new? Was anything intriguing in this chapter? The brother Yahshua, yet again, passing another test, another milestone. Can we apply these principles in our everyday life?
Islam.
Islam.
The overall theme for me today is no matter what test you come up against or what obstacles, if you stay true to your compass, to your heart, you'll always be able to overcome them. And you'll find that most of them are actually illusions and not what you really think they are. It's more of an assumed thing. So stay true to yourself. You never lose.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you see how the people that come as high priests, they always end up being tempters, the tempters, yep. The people causing the temptation or attempted to tempt, you know what I mean? And it's crazy when you're reading it damn near how you fool. Like when you first read it, like to like the tail end, like, oh man, he stood firm. You know what I mean? It damn near had me. Like, you know what I mean? I came in with the robes, and I'm thinking this literally somebody, some priest. Like when I first read this, I was just following the story, and I'm thinking there's some actual priest just coming in to let him know like some stuff. And then after I keep reading it, like the principles stood out more and more. But yeah, man.
How many times do we get caught up on what somebody's wearing and not really hear what they're saying? They use it in politics. They use it in movie stars and that type of thing. Music, the image more than the words.
Right. So now it's the followers, the followers and likes. That's the game now. Modern time, right? So yeah, man. Yahshua, young man out here. But as you can see, he's the logos now. The logos. I think the last chapter he got his logo status, right? Logos, you know what I mean? So he's one with himself and he's activating. You know what I mean? Any other thoughts on this chapter before we transition? Astro diagnosis.
I don't remember what number it was, but it had to do something about the light, and it was giving me hermit energy. When we go into isolation to tune up our light so that we can be a beacon of wisdom and knowledge for other people through certain experiences. But we need to be in tune with ourselves to know when we need to go into hermit mode to start filtering out the stuff, the outside influences that don't even belong. Yeah.
Mhm. Hermit mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Recharge. Let's say recharge the batteries. Reflection. Yeah. Yeah. Rest. Rest is key too. I notice every time I get some good rest, I'm pretty much I feel so magnetic. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like I just feel like I can make stuff happen better. Like I'm more alert, my mind working. So it's all, I think it's all relative. Um, Anybody else have any thoughts on this chapter? The logos. All right. Transitioning to astro diagnosis by Max Wendell. We're dealing with gonorrhea. We got a female born July 30th, 1896. Hour not known. So 2 horoscopes will be issued in this lesson in an endeavor to illustrate how the planets show when disease may be the result of breaking the laws of nature in former lives, and how the seeds that have been sown by past sins will bring their fruit in this life. This first horoscope is that of a woman whose hour of birth is not known, nor is it necessary for diagnosis in a horoscope with planets so strangely grouped in the fixed signs. We will set the figure with Aries on the ascendant. We find Mercury, Sun, Venus, Jupiter, and the Dragon's Tail, all in the 5th sign, Leo, which represents the pleasures of the native or the patient. We find Mars in Taurus and his detriment, the sign in which this planet of dynamic energy shows its most evil tendencies. So Mars in Taurus and its detriment, the sign in which this planet of dynamic energy shows its most evil tendencies. This planet is afflicted by the opposition of the licentious Uranus and the obstructive Saturn. These last named planets are in conjunction and in the fixed sign of Scorpio. These 3 malefic planets, Mars, Uranus, and Saturn, are also square to the planets in Leo. Here we find a very heavy debt of destiny. Destiny. In the Rosicrucian teachings, remember Max Wendell, the author of this book, he's a Rosicrucian guy. So in the Rosicrucian teachings, we are told that we lay the foundation in this life upon which we shall build the structure of future lives. This woman in her previous life had developed a very powerful desire nature, which in this embodiment was very hard to keep under control. Powerful desire nature. Venus in conjunction with the sun and Jupiter and square to Uranus and Saturn in the sign of Scorpio, also Mars, the planet which has rule over the desires, square to Venus and Jupiter, all lead to free love and clandestine attachment. Clandestine attachment. With the result that this poor woman has contracted that dread disease, gonorrhea, which has resulted in tuberculosis in the pelvic and hip bones. Visual of her chart. Now, planets impel, but they do not compel. This woman, by her former living, had attracted to herself these planetary afflictions, but she was not impelled to respond to their weakness. For we find the moon well aspected, making a sextile to Neptune and a trine to Jupiter, Venus, Sun, and Mercury. Neptune is also sextile to Venus and Jupiter. If the woman had used her will and followed the desire to live right, which naturally must have come to her from time to time, she could have transmutated this seeming evil into good. But the path of sensual pleasure was so much broader and so alluring, while the upward path meant self-surrender, the power to transmutate and choose a path and choose a mind state and choose a vibratory pulse, polarity. That was a short chapter, but very insightful, especially when you got the fundamentals memorized, dealing with the sextiles and the trines and what that means, and you know how there are degrees of separation, right? Some inharmonious, some harmonious. But yeah, I'll open the floor for thoughts on this short chapter. Anything that was insightful? Anything at all dealing with this chapter? And
So I have to bust out one of my books with my notes because the houses the houses all mean something. So I was curious as to what the fifth house and the 11th house represented and how they like what's the opposition. So the fifth house is your pleasure and your romance, like your creative hobbies and stuff like that. And then your 11th house is your social group. So from reading this and the energies, I basically feel like because she was off balance, she developed attachments and codependency to stuff of a low vibrational frequency, and she continued to feed those impulses, and she was not able to get out of it, and instead of becoming self-aware of the destruction that she was causing herself, she basically plunged herself further down the hole because she was not aware of the energy that she was carrying with inside of her.
yeah, and the
And then
power.
the social groups that really have a whole effect on the people that you hang out with is basically the energy that you're going to carry. So you need to be mindful of the groups of people that you're hanging with, because you can be acting out some of their thoughts and ideologies, not necessarily your own. So yeah.
Yeah. What stood out to me was the whole transmutation aspect, like the choice. You know, everybody, the ability So what that lets me know, and it kind of correlates to the theme like the last couple of weeks about the willpower and the ascendant. How, and ideally, I believe it was cardinal signs had the most willpower. If you would put it on a spectrum, who got the most to the least, I think it's cardinal, fixed, immutable, as far as the pecking order. But the willpower to transmutate, that takes willpower to be like, um, I'm mad right now or whatever. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm at peace. Like 2 seconds later. That's the power, the transmutation, the magi. You know,
But then it's you have to really, really pay attention to yourself, because you're not going to be aware when it surfaces and it needs to be transmuted. Like, all of this ties back into knowing yourself. You go automatically feel when it's not off, and you go be able to transmute it like that. But if you're not aware, that's how you keep sinking yourself digger and digger in the fucking hole. Because instead of dealing with the issues, you just keep running to the pleasure aspect of it, and the pleasure aspect is the shit that's fucking you up. Like,
right, right, right. And that's the discipline. That's the key of, because everything's a discipline. When you look at it, it's like more science is it's a study of disciplines, right? Um, that just hit me right now. Everything's a discipline. You know what I mean? So everything is a challenging type of thing. You have to challenge yourself. Yamila Ali Khan Bey, Islam, you know,
Islam.
it's like a purging, right?
that shadow work.
Yeah, no, it's not about being, relaxed or whatever. Things are supposed to be in motion, I guess all across the board. You know what I mean? Like, smallest level to the biggest level. There's always some plotting and planning going on, right? Some type of analysis. It's always a scientific perspective. Everything is measurable. I guess for us, it's just getting in tune, with us on a fundamental level, so we can even know how to calculate in the first place. But after that, I think it's smooth sailing. You know what I mean? But clearly, it's different levels of people and what they gravitate towards naturally. It's a lot of different ologies to dive into. But yeah, you never stop. But I want to open the floor on this chapter. Any thoughts on this chapter?
The line that I thought was pretty cool is how it says, now planets impel, but they do not compel. Meaning, they don't write your destiny. If, like you say, you use the discipline to fight the urge. And how in this case, it was a sensual pleasure that was her downfall. It's crazy how your sexual energy can either be wasted or it could be used mindfully to heal those around you, stuff like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's when they say, I remember when back in the day when I was doing, when I was whatever you want to call it, on the crooked path or whatnot, I was kicking it with my white homie, my Albion homie. Well, he's Mexican too, he's mixed, but he just, he has a certain way to him, and he was talking about I just laughed it off at the time because I didn't really want to give any of my power to magic. but he was saying something about like, oh yeah, it works if you have an orgasm or something like that. And it's crazy because when you're orgasming, that's the time to manifest. They say that it's stronger, and probably it was important to try to have clear intentions, and I mean, to each his own. I could only speak for myself.
Yeah, man.
I believe it's more potent because you're opening portals in the act. So that's what makes the manifestations, I guess, come faster. But you got to make sure that the both parties, the intentions are pure and shit. So definitely do your homework first.
Yep.
Yeah, that's key. That's key. Both parties being on the same vibration with that.
Mhm.
It's crazy, man, because you know, I still got, I've done really good at entrepreneurism, so that dream hasn't died yet. But since times are getting a little rough, I dive back into, I got back into trucking a little bit. I just have a baby, so I gotta try to transmute this, the system money into something, But I was put in a little situation where my boss, I felt like she was kind of like being disrespectful in a way. And my first reaction was to just, emotionally respond on how I felt. But I just